Hey, what's up, guys? We are back here at AWS reInvent 2025 in the middle of the craziness, and I'm here with Zack from Stedi.
Thanks for having me. Great to
All
be
right.
here.
So, Zack, what is Stedi?
Stedi is a healthcare clearinghouse. So we process transactions between two parties in healthcare, which is generally related to insurance claims and eligibility checks. So we process transactions between providers, which could be like your local doctor or dentist office, all the way up to a large academic medical center, like one of these big hospitals that you might go to, and payers, which are the insurance companies. So what happens? You go to your doctor's office and they ask for your insurance card. They tell you your copay is $20. You have 3 visits left. That's a transaction that Stedi processes. Once you've actually been seen by the doctor, had the procedure, your teeth cleaned, or whatever it might be, they submit a claim, and a series of messages come back in response to that, kind of consummating the claim payment. And Stedi processes all those transactions back and forth.
So, this transaction layer, it's not credit card transactions necessarily. It's not like JSON API calls. What is it under the hood? What's the actual data
Yeah,
layer
great
of this
question.
world?
So, people kind of think about healthcare as this really difficult, complicated space, and I think to some extent it is true. But what people don't appreciate is that the HIPAA Act of '96, which most people know is a privacy and compliance framework, I'm sure you've come across
Right.
HIPAA
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time.
So, it's a privacy thing for patients,
It
right?
it also, among other things, established something called administrative simplification rules. And what those did is they said, look, every eligibility check, every claim, every claim record of the claim payment that came back, and then the various linking mechanisms between those transactions have to be done in a standardized way. So they adopted schemas for that, and the underlying schema format is called X12 EDI, which happens to be the same format that's used by Amazon and Walmart and Target and Tractor Supply Company for purchase orders and ship notices and invoices. If you see a Maersk shipping container, on a ship, those are all communicated via EDI. So it's this kind of business to business communication layer. Now, the HIPAA Act went a step further and said it's not just that we're going to adopt the X12 standard, we're going to adopt a very opinionated subset of that. So they adopted, it's a 650-page schema for the claim, and it's done as a PDF. And what Stedi and other clearinghouses have done is turn those into, kind of deterministic schemas that can be checked programmatically. And we offer the ability for, traditional EHR practice management systems to integrate with us via the traditional X12 rails. We also give people the ability to do that via a modern JSON API, which is obviously something that's pretty important for if you're building like an AI native revenue cycle management tool, which a third of our customers are doing.
Talk more about that. So, it sounds like you interface with this existing world of EDI and this existing like sphere of medical data, essentially transaction data that's out there. What are new companies building on top of it? What's enabling them to do faster?
Well, when you think about healthcare transactions, like you have this kind of wonderful substrate, which is the fact that the HIPAA administrative simplification rules mean that everybody's speaking a common language. If you think about like what makes AI so powerful for coding is that basically you have the compiler or a test suite, hopefully both, as a backstop. So like within the realms of reasonableness, you can kind of let agents run a little bit wild. You have pull requests, you have all this, review process, you have the compiler, you have tests that are going to run. And it's kind of a similar thing with healthcare. So when you think about all these tens of thousands of validation rules that exist as a result of HIPAA and the various payer-specific requirements, you kind of have this like compiler almost. You can think about what Stedi has built as a compiler for healthcare. And what that means is that is a kind of tailor-made perfect use case for AI. So what happens now if you submit a claim as a provider working in a provider's office who's sending claims to Medicaid of Minnesota, and that claim gets rejected or denied? Well, you probably have somebody work the claim, in human scale. They're going through and they're making phone calls to the payer. They're kind of reviewing clinical notes and they're, drafting a letter. Obviously, it would be more efficient if that could be done via AI. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of companies who are building on top of Stedi to solve these AI agentic workflow cases, both for what's called front-end and back-end workflows. So a back-end workflow is what we're talking about with like a rejected claim. A front-end workflow, which is different from front-end and back-end in software engineering,
Right.
is a front office workflow versus a back office workflow. So when you go into your doctor's office and you say, hey, I don't have my insurance card with me, but my name is Mike, and, I think my insurance is Cigna, but that check comes back as a rejected check because your name is not Mike, it's Michael. but it also could be Michelangelo or something else. Those things need additional kind of shots on goal in order to be figured out. And if someone can't figure it out, one of two things happens. The person picks up a phone and makes a phone call to the payer, which is very expensive, or you just get told, hey, look, you have to pay out of pocket for this procedure because you're not covered.
As you're talking about this and what people are building on top, it reminds me a lot of other platforms like Plaid, kind of aggregation services. Are there parallels to that? I mean, in Plaid, when Plaid really started growing, it enabled this new layer of like fintech to be built on top. I'm curious if it's kind of the same architecture, or you're seeing the same type of growth of new products.
I think, yeah, Plaid's a good analogy. I think the difference between us and Plaid, look, what they do is very complicated. I think that when you think about it, though, a banking transaction has, a handful of fields. It's got an amount, it's got a date that it was posted, it's got a memo, it's got some addenda fields and things like that. Now, a lot of the complexity is probably in authing into the various bank accounts and making sure that things, you're dealing with the various mechanisms that you have to deal with the right way there. When you're dealing with healthcare transactions, a claim is enormously complicated. And so you're dealing with we integrate with, 3,500 different payers. So probably on the same order of magnitude as what Plaid does. But within those transactions, there's just a lot more complexity that you're having to deal with from a schema standpoint.
What's changed around Stedi in the last year or two in terms of company, your growth? You give people a sense of where you are as a business and team and all that.
Well, let's see. We started out actually not as a clearinghouse. The biggest thing that happened was 20 months ago, we launched the clearinghouse. What you think is we kind of like built up the stack progressively. We first launched a set of 8 individual building blocks. These 8 individual APIs was probably around the time that I met you originally. And what those were was like, you think about it like an AWS for EDI. So a company who was building, something in logistics or transportation or supply chain, or maybe they're building something in healthcare, could assemble these 8 different building blocks, just like you would.
This is just general EDI.
General EDI,
and
yeah.
not
Nothing
healthcare specific,
healthcare,
just general EDI.
And you could build that, you could build an EDI system with a lot of work. Now, what that meant was that you would come to Stedi and you would have to do weeks or months of setup because you had to bring your relationship with Maersk or Amazon or Walmart or Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, whatever it might be. We then built a SaaS platform on top of that, which cut out a lot of the glue code that you would have to write. Was a higher order abstraction, so you didn't have to work with the underlying building blocks. We used those underlying building blocks under the hood. And then in February of last year, we launched our clearinghouse, which basically does all the connectivity for you. So the original dream of Stedi was, hey, what if you could connect once, kind of similar to a Plaid or a Stripe, and you would get connections to thousands of different trading partners all at once? Well, what happened in February of last year was the nation's largest clearinghouse for claims that processed about 50% of the claims volume in the United States, $1.5 trillion of claims got hit by a cyber attack. And so they were down for 60 days. And so we had planned to build our clearinghouse in the back half of last year. And what happened in February is I said, look, I got the whole engineering team together and I said, we're going to do what we had planned to do in the back half of this year. We're going to do this over the next 5 days. And, we didn't know it was going to take 5 days at that point. I said, this was Thursday. We're going to launch it as quickly as possible. On Tuesday, the following week, we launched the clearinghouse.
Wow.
And
That's
that was
awesome.
really only possible because we built it inside of a Stedi account. So,
Sounds like you had the Rails to do it already. You had built all the integrations.
Exactly right. You think we're at AWS.
Yeah.
When you see like a new feature launches at AWS, they build that inside of an AWS account. So they spin up a commercial, basically AWS account. And they're building durable functions or whatever it is that lands. For us, we built our whole clearinghouse inside of a Stedi account, which does enable us to move so quickly.
I feel like this is one of those things with platforms. We have it too at WorkOS, where incremental new things that we build, we're able to build them faster and deliver them sooner because we have this like massive existing infrastructure. Like we built a new feature flags product this past summer that you can use instead of the other feature flag vendors. And it was actually very fast for us to build, and it's really good immediately out of the box. But it's because it's standing on the shoulders of 6 years of other engineering work.
It's funny. We get the question all the time, like, how do you think about product development and feature prioritization and those pieces? And I think about it's like a bid-ask spread between like, what is the market asking for? And then what do you have on the shelf that you can kind of plausibly sell to people? And, like, it's funny, most companies that are 5, 6, 7 years in, they just can't really ship software anymore. Very different from the physical product world where like there's a 150-year-old dressmaker and there's still, you never see like, oh, well, it's, the new fashion season and we didn't ship any new dresses this year. But when you look at enterprise software companies, they kind of lose the ability to ship features. So what I think, like every kind of feature that a company ships is some sort of a miracle. It's a miracle that you were able to like get all the pieces together. And so when we think about what do we want to ship, we look at what are our customers asking for, what are the pieces that we have on the shelf, and always looking for like, how can we assemble 3 or 4 things that we have on the shelf and build one net new thing in order to make feature flagging work, for example, as opposed to saying, okay, now we're going to go ship something that requires 6 or 7 different building blocks that we don't have today.
From scratch.
Now you're into, we don't know when this is going to ship. It's 6 quarters of work versus, single digit days or single digit weeks.
Yeah. Last question for you. What are you most excited about here at reInvent? Like, what are you seeing? Yeah, I mean, for the short time we've been here so far.
Well, we get excited about there's the Pablo Picasso quote where he says, when artists get together or when art critics get together, they talk about, form and function and style and whatever else. And when artists get together, they talk about where to find cheap turpentine.
Cheap turpentine, yeah. Cheap paint thinner.
And so, I just listened to the keynote, Matt's keynote, and squeezed into the last, 6 minutes are durable functions and 50 terabyte object size in S3. And those are the things that we get really excited about, because those are like, as builders who are building the next generation of our products using AWS native tools, we're excited about those things. We get a little bit less excited about some of the big ticket items, which I think are like maybe sometimes more directed at enterprises versus, the kind of the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, I've always found with this event, the stuff that gets said on stage in the keynotes is great, but it's almost like the conversations that happen over dinner or a drink with someone or kind of hearing about what's actually going into the product. That's the most inspiring to me.
Yeah, same for us. Yeah, we are excited for the Rust SDK for durable functions to ship at some point. And, those are the things you find out about in the backroom conversations.
The turpentine of SaaS. Yeah.